Okay, and we are live. Um, Hi everyone. Um, Hi, d.a.i friends. Hi members. Welcome to tonight's artist talk with the phenomenal photographer Katie Parker. Thank you, Kate, for taking the time to talk and think aloud with us tonight. We are really thrilled to have you here with us virtually, live from Atlanta, Georgia. We are also beyond thrilled to have your breathtakingly powerful photos from your exhibition and New York Times bestselling book, Strongest in Your Pretty, on our walls at the German-American Institute in Tübingen. And one last time, of like being thrilled, at least for now, we are also thrilled that you're taking the time to talk about your art and your artistic process with us tonight. Welcome, Kate.
Thank you so much for having me. And honestly, thank you so much for putting up the exhibition. I'm so thrilled and honored, and I'm so thankful that it resonated. Something as a very small project, a personal project to me, to see it kind of go across the world is more than I imagined. And honestly, it's like a dream come true. So I'm super thankful and really excited to be here.
We are so happy to hear that, and I'm thrilled to hear that as well. And bridging the big pond is kind of what we do. So before I introduce you formally, let me shortly talk about us and who we are and what we do. My name is Katharina Luther, and I'm the director of the German-American Institute here in Tübingen in the south of Germany. We are a binational forum that celebrates and fosters German-American cultural, historical, and political exchange on a people-to-people basis. And if you want to know more about us and our work, you can always follow us on Instagram, on Facebook, and also on TikTok, or visit us in the flesh. And going back to the idea of people to people, be it in person or online, it is this idea which really brings us to you, Kate, and your project, Strongest in Your Pretty, because you and your creative mind are here. I don't want to talk about the photos just now. I want to hand the floor over to you and let you do that in just a second. But I do want to take the time to talk about you as a people. So let me formally introduce you. Katie Parker is a mother, a wife, an Ironman athlete, a professional photographer, director, and a New York Times bestselling author. She is all of that and more. Kate shoots both personal projects and commercial work. Her Strongest in Your Pretty book, let me show it to you. I am obsessed with this book. Her book led to collaborations with brands such as Disney, Athleta, Collix, and NBC. Very impressive. These collaborations have inspired Kate to launch a philanthropic arm of Strongest in Your Pretty, and it is in her philanthropic work that Kate partners with organizations such as Girls on the Run, Girl Up, the Author Blank Family Foundation, and more by investing in children's health and education. So Kate is not just an activist. She's not just, a photographer who shoots gorgeous photography, but she's also an author of 5 books, right? Strongest in Your Pretty, Strongest in Your Pretty, the Guided Journal, The Heart of a Boy, and Play Like a Girl. And she is currently working on her 5th book with the title Force of Nature. Kate, we cannot wait to get our hands on your 5th book. Her work has been featured in the Huffington Post, O Magazine, Oh Mighty Girl, Vogue, and so much more. And let me just, stop myself here because we really want to meet you, Kate, and your phenomenal work, which has inspired everyone here at the d.a.i to ask the question of who we want to be and who we want to become. So thank you so much for starting this conversation already. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, it's very exciting. Like I was saying, it's such an honor. My only regret is that I couldn't come see it in person.
I know.
So I saw the pictures, everything looked awesome. And for me, Strong is New Pretty, it really, like I was saying before, it just, I basically was learning how to become a photographer, and I had 2 young girls, and I knew I wanted to take photos, but I really didn't know how to work a camera really. I didn't know how to shoot manually.
Wow.
So I just invested. I remember I asked my husband, I said, can we just make an investment in a camera?
Yeah.
Because I want to be a photographer and I will pay like our family back. And I had this whole plan, and then I just would shoot pictures every day. Like I was lying on the floor, I was shooting, trying to get I would lie back and I would like try to get my feet in focus, trying to figure that out and try to edit. And then like over the course of many years, the strongest images, because I would shoot the girls all the time. So I have 2 girls that, and Ella is my oldest daughter, Ella, is on the cover of Strong is New Pretty. And I literally shot that right here. That's the same background here. Yes. So she was just, same lights, exact same setup. So Ella's now 18. And
wow.
Alice, yes, she just graduated high school.
Congratulations to Ella.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. And Alice is almost 15. So she's in the book a bunch as well. So I just was shooting them all of the time, trying to get better as a photographer. And then over the course of many years, I noticed like the strongest images were the ones where they were being themselves, which for my girls meant like they were like dirty or emotional or not smiling, or their hair wasn't brushed. They didn't look perfect. And we live in Georgia and, in the United States, in the South, where all of the children's photography, like a lot of the children's photography that I saw, the little girls were like smiling and perfect, and they had beautiful outfits on, and their hair was curled, and everybody was like perfect and happy. And I was like, that is not how my girls look. That is not how I look. So I just sort of wanted to celebrate that, like celebrate the imperfections and celebrate the emotions and celebrate the mismatched stuff, or celebrate the anger, and like know that is like trying to capture the whole child, and know that was beautiful and worthy of like, like you're like, I feel like sometimes you only take your camera out when it's like a win. And I was like, no, all of this is supposed to be celebrated. So I wanted my girls to really understand and feel like all those sides of themselves were beautiful. And so I just kind of shot a lot for many years. And the project sort of turned into like, so it's funny. It started, I was asked to be part of a gallery show here in Atlanta. And that's when I saw everything kind of pulled out, like, what are my 20 strongest images? I was like, oh, this is what I'm shooting. Like, it hadn't really clicked that I was. And then and it's a funny thing about that gallery. So you print 20 images and you frame 20 images. And then as the photographer, you generally pay for that yourself, but with the assumption that something will sell and you'll make that money back. But so every single one of those images is right upstairs in my great room because nothing sold. So I was just like, okay, I'm a failure. This project nobody likes this project. This project means nothing. I was really devastated. I was like, should I sell my cameras? Should I not do this anymore? And then I got angry because I was like, I really do think something is here.
It's the great emotion sometimes, right?
Yes,
anger. Yeah. Yes. So creative.
It's funny. In a lot of the photos, like not a lot, but like some of the photos, like my girls are angry. And I'm like, I think it can be powerful. Yeah. Like, if you harness it in the right way, it's energy. So
energy,
So I got angry and I was like, you know what? Maybe somebody doesn't want to hang these pictures in their house, but but I still think this message is strong and I'm still passionate about this message for you girls. So every single day I would find 5 outlets to send, like, I wrote a little email about what what it was about, what the images were about. And I sent a link to a Dropbox of images. Nobody responded, but every single day I was like, well, what about Huffington Post? Okay. What about CNN? What about the New York Times? No, no one responded. Then one blog ran a story about it. And then one more ran. And then like it just slowly, and then funnily enough, all of those places I had originally emailed were like, hey, we'd love to run this story about these girls. And it just kind of blew up. And from that opportunity, I had a chance to do a book, which I was so excited because up until this point, it was only my daughters and their friends. So it wasn't representative strength across, really how it looks in all kinds of girls. And so I really loved the chance to expand what strength looked like. And I spent 2 years and I was shot girls all over the country. Because it was really important to me to have diversity of strength, diversity of economics, diversity of demographics, diversity of location represented, because I really wanted any girl or woman or anybody picking up the book to see somebody that they could be inspired by and that they felt like they could see themselves in that way. So then 2 years later, the book Strong is New Pretty came out, and I'm so proud of that. It was funny. It was not my intention. It was just like, I just had a little temper tantrum, and then it just sort of like snowballed into this amazing work that I am like forever thankful to be connected to.
Wow. It sounds like you really had momentum and a hunch and energy and a conviction, right? A very personal conviction and strength that led to this project and then all of your follow-up projects. Let me just drag you back a little bit to one of the things that you mentioned, and that is that you casually say, and then I just went all over the country, right? As if it's something that you could easily do, and shot the girls, right? So can you unpack this a little bit for us? How did you make your decisions to in terms of like where to go, whom to shoot, and so on? So what's your process behind that, this kind of selection process? And I'm sure there are several selection processes, but can you just unpack that for us? Thank you.
Oh, sure. So it was, being a mom with young girls at the time, I was trying to I was trying to do as much as I could at home. So I was trying to shoot as many things as I could in and around Atlanta. So I tried to find as many stories that represented as much diversity, but also I shoot commercially. So I travel a lot. So if I were going to Los Angeles, for example, I would say I would want to shoot maybe girls that were surfers or girls that were skateboarders or something that was represented of that area. Or if I was, and then I would put calls out through social media looking for strong girls in LA or Chicago or New York or wherever I was shooting. And then also, because that doesn't always, like if your mom follows me on Instagram, that is also that's not truly diverse. So I would also try to reach out to organizations like the Boys and Girls Club or Girls on the Run or just like whatever organizations that I felt like might be aligned with this sort of project. I would reach out to them too and say, hey, I'm coming to this city. I would love to see, is there any girls that might be interested in being part of this project? And then also I get emails. So like sometimes it's like such a compelling story that I'm like, okay, I have to go shoot this girl. And so I would travel specifically for that. So and then looking at the work as a whole after and being like, do we have any holes? Is there anything I need? Do I have everything represented that I think? And then also having other people's eyes on it as well to make sure that it feels representative of as much of like the population of like for my next book, it's Force of Nature. It's about girls and women using their voices and raising their voices to make a change. So trying to make sure that we have loud voices, we have like activist voices, but we also have some quiet voices that maybe are not as like maybe not exactly what you would think of, but also like it's just as strong and just as courageous, but it's just maybe not as loud.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. You've given me so much food for thought. So let me just
Wow.
pick, some of the things in your once you've traveled and you made your decision really to start photographing a certain girl, then you have the photo, but this is not just everything that is too strongest in your pretty. What
Mhm.
I think is beautiful is that you have these little personal comments or stories that communicate directly with the moment that you
Right.
caught on film. And was that a conversation taking place? How did that unfold, and how then again, making decisions? What then led you to pick that one line? Did you make
Right.
that decision? Did the girl make that decision? Yeah.
So it's funny, that process has evolved over the books that I've done. And I feel like I've finally gotten it down. So with Strong as New Pretty, we would follow up with a survey.
Mm-hmm.
And that was fine, but I felt like sometimes it was stilted because it wasn't in a conversational tone, or maybe it was really short, or like and so I remember being like, following up with the girls with Strong as New Pretty and saying, oh, I remember what we talked about. Can you maybe use that as part of your quote? And for this last book, for Force of Nature, I just started interviewing the girls. I would interview the girls and record it on my phone. And then I would get it would just get not translated, but I would just get a transcript of everything.
Yeah.
That way it could be like, oh, like, because some people are like very, they're like, well, I don't think I use my voice. And I'm like, no, you definitely use your voice. What about this? What about this? What about that? And so I get the transcript after the fact, and then I just pull maybe the best quotes from it. And then I basically put all the quotes in an Excel document because we're not sure what chapter these girls lie in. And that's the process we are now. So if it's, the chapter about finding your voice, we're like, okay, let's talk about this. And sometimes we have to go back and say, hey, we moved your chapter. Instead of talking about, when you used your voice, can you talk about when you found your voice? So it's a lot. I mean, because there's, I don't know, maybe 700 girls in each book. It's a lot of like back and forth and, try. And then, but we make sure that, once each girl's photo is aligned with her quote, that they are okay with it, that they don't want to change anything, that they feel like it still represents what they feel. So yeah, it's a lot of communication with the girls and the women, just to make sure that it's accurate. And then I want everybody who are part of my projects to be really proud to be a part of it, and like to feel that it accurately says who they are. So like that's huge for me. Like even if they said it, and even if it's their quote, their mind could have changed. So we like to double check.
Yeah, I think there's something magical going on in your photos, because what you've described just now, this idea that there is a moment of meeting the self, right? Be it the girl in the photo through the quotes and the editing process and the respectfully making sure that everything is aligned, right? That's one thing. But then, and I'm not sure what happens, so I want to pick your brain. Then there seems to be some kind of jump, or something happens between the photo and the person that then, for example, comes into our exhibition and looks at the photos, that they also see a part of themselves, and they find something. Every single person that has entered this exhibition to look at your photos has found something in the photos that reminds them of themselves, or there's this kind of meeting moment. And so what do you think, as an expert of creating such moments, what do you think, is it about your photos that allows for this to happen? What's your hunch, right? I mean,
I mean, I do think it's like, so I have this little story about, there's this photo, and it's, you all have it in the exhibition. It's my youngest daughter, and she's in the water and she's screaming. It's a black and white photo, and she's just like, like yelling.
Yes.
And so that photo has been stolen from me so many times. It's been memed. People put under there, remember her, let's go back out and get her. So and it's funny, I have that photo, it's upstairs, it's framed. It's like big frame because I took the photo, it's my daughter. And we had someone in our house, a woman recently in our house, and she was, like she was redoing our carpets. And so she saw the photos framed and said, I also have that photo framed in my house. I saw it on the internet and I printed it out because I liked how it made me feel. And I was like, okay, I was like, whatever. I was like, first of all, this got to be the cover of the next book, because it's like, whatever this is resonating with women, especially to remind us. And I think that's hopefully what I try with my photos, to remind us as women of those moments when we were younger, before society sort of like made us question ourselves so much, to be like, you were confident, you were powerful beyond measure, and you believed in yourself. And you didn't care what people thought of you. You didn't care how you looked. You were just like fully immersed and passionate. And like, I hope my photos do that for people. Because I think the power of our young girls, especially capturing them in those moments when they're doing things that they love and that they feel fully themselves, is such a reminder to us as we get older to get back into that, to like go find that part of us that we may have lost, or we may have like softened off those sharp edges a little bit, and to go get those back.
Yeah, that completely resonates with me, and it also speaks to a conviction that I have, and that a friend of mine, Ingrid Hotz-Davis, has actually given to me, and it's the idea that freedom is actually, it's a feeling, an affect, like that you feel free. It's the moment that like you just feel this kind of freedom, right? And yes, there are also systems that allow you to be free and so on, but it's also this kind of very momentous thing. I I love that photo, and there are so many photos that we have here and that are in your book where these young girls scream. So they play with noise and with like being loud. There are also dampened moments when, for example, I forgot her name, the girl who is diving into the deep water to look for money.
Oh, I think that might be Ella.
Yeah,
that is my older, like, is her
feet are up.
Feet are out. Yeah, that's Ella.
And so it's very like it's kind of the opposite of a screaming girl, but still very powerful. And then you play with speed a lot, right? And as someone who is not in, like, I don't know a lot about photography, but I was completely fascinated by that. Like, how can you do that when you have a flat photo, right? A thing that doesn't scream back at you, at least not in terms of creating like sound waves, right? It does scream back to you in other ways. Can you comment on that? Like, how does that work? How do you do that?
I mean, I think like it's so funny when I shoot, like, when I started shooting, I didn't have a lot of money for lots of lenses. And so I invested in a 35 millimeter lens, which is basically like a 50 millimeter lens sees what your eye sees. And a 35 millimeter is sort of like, it's just a wider view. And I think because I didn't have a lot of options, I shot everything with my 35. I would say 90% of the images in your in the exhibition are shot with a 35 millimeter. And I think one of the best things, it's one of the best lenses to shoot kids with, because it shows them you can get uptight and there's not a lot of distortion, and you can do a great portrait. But if you step back, you get their whole world, and you can see them small in the world. And I think one of the things I love capturing is the energy and like the forward constant momentum and the excitement of, and also I don't know that for me it's not always that's not constantly going on when I'm shooting, but for me I think when I choose the images that speak to me, it's always those ones where it's a lot of expression, a lot of joy, or like the faces. I love, oh my gosh, like kids that are expressive, are like our faces that are expressive are favorite. I'm like, I think because I'm that way. It's so funny. My husband's always like, watch your face. Like you're like, I don't have a poker face. I'm always like, if I'm annoyed, like, or if I'm happy, it's just like all over. So I love that. And I think like, that's sort of a childlike way to approach the world, is like, whatever you're feeling, it's out there. And that's what I'm like trying to capture. If you're like excited about something, go run toward it, you know, or jump, or, you know, I think that energy and like approach to the world is like a good reminder for us too.
Totally. This is I think also a good reminder for myself to invite our audience to slowly start using the chat. So if you have some questions for us, Kate and I, we both invite you to make use of the chat on YouTube and type your questions, and I'm gonna sometimes like look into the screen that is right in front of me, right? I'm just revealing that to you. And yeah, give us all of your questions. And I think in the meantime, I also, I mean, you've talked about your process, right? We've talked about the kind of movement and the speed. And I think one of the things that is still missing if we just visually approach everything is color.
Right.
Because I think it's so characteristic of everything that you do. And I personally I love that every morning when I enter this institute, and when I'm yearning to get my coffee. I love these bright pops of color and, just looking my way. So what's your relationship with color? How do you use it? What do you think of color? Take it wherever you want to take it.
I mean, you can see like, I like color on me. I like color in my spaces. I'm not at like, oh, let's have everything muted. Like I'm like the same. I feel like it's a way to communicate energy. And like I generally, when I'm editing photos, I'm like, bring up the vibrancy, bring up the saturation. I really want colors to pop. And honestly, like a lot of times if I feel like there is one strong color, I will bring that up as much as I can without making it look false or fake. But I really do like to emphasize color. And I also like, it's funny. So if it's colorful, I want it to be super colorful. And then if I make the choice to go with a black and white photo, I really want those black saturated. I want the whites white. Like I love a good black and white photo. And when I first started shooting, and a lot of the photos in Strongest and Pretty were black and white, because first of all, because I was a new photographer, I didn't save my raw files. So I can't change them to another color now because I don't have them. And also I didn't know always how to edit skin tones to make them feel like correct. So I would cheat and be like, oh, I'll make it black and white. Like in a pool, or I just wasn't skilled enough to create like authentic looking skin tone. So a lot of times I was like, oh, I'll just do black and white, which I think is totally fine. Now I wish I had the raw files so I could like have the option. But I mean, I think like for me, it's just like, I want things saturated. I want things bright. I want things like to feel maybe like the moment, but a little bit more, like I want the greens green. I want the colors really, really poppy.
Yeah.
I love it because I feel like it emphasizes like the energy that the kids have.
Great. Before, we already have one question from Max, but I do want to ask one more question about strength.
Sure.
Because I feel like, we cannot talk about Strongest and Pretty and not talk about being strong and strength. What do you think what is the philosophy or the kind of stance on strength and being strong that emerges not just from you, but really from all of the girls that are in here and on our walls and on your walls and on so many people's walls all over the world? Yeah.
I think a lot of it for me, like that story I told about the my gallery show not selling, and but then I was really passionate about the idea and I didn't give up on it. And that's sort of the thing I try to emphasize with the girls that I shoot, is that find something you are passionate about, stay with it. Because if you're passionate about things, I guarantee you other people are passionate about it, and not to give up on that, and to find your strength and your identity through sort of that hard work and and those things that you love, because they're like the best parts of you, whether it's art, whether it's music, whether it's sports, whether it's, anything. Like finding things and investing yourself in things and being enthusiastic about things is where that confidence comes from. Especially as girls get older, they tend to, they tend to drop out of sports, or they drop out of things because of society or peer pressure. And like, I really just want to encourage our girls to stay and to find and to not be discouraged if you are trying multiple things. Like, I did not find photography until I was in my 30s. So, I think staying, it's funny. My kids always are like, make fun of, like, say it as an insult that somebody is a try hard. And I like, that is for me, like, I think that is the best thing in the world, is people that try hard and are enthusiastic.
Yeah.
And I think it's one of the best things ever. So, I try to celebrate that in these books, and that you find your strength through that.
I completely agree. And I mean, we also have to be some myth busting, right? This kind of grittiness and this kind of looking and being open and looking for things that speak to you and you're good at, or that make you feel great. That's an amazing quality to have, right? And this kind of openness and this idea that things might just happen to you and with you, and if you like it, go for it.
Right.
That's just a beautiful thing about life. And sometimes, not always, sometimes it's even better than the plan you had, I don't know, 10 years ago for yourself, or other people had for you, right, 10 years ago or something like that.
Yes, for sure. Yes.
Yeah.
Things change, you change. And I think that's also one of the things I like to emphasize, is that we contain multitudes. So you can like to dress up and wear makeup and get your hair done. And you can also love, be a hardcore badass athlete. And those things don't make each other false. You can hold both of those things within yourself. They're both true. And that was something I struggled as a kid, because I liked both of those things. And I was like, it was hard to be like, oh, and am I being false? But no, I think it's like, we can take all these things and one doesn't cancel the other out.
Yeah, brilliant. I would love to chat forever about this, but I do want to get back to Max. I'm just going to read out his question, and it says, "Hello, Miss Parker. Max Schneeb from the German regional newspaper d.a.i. in Tübingen, and it's our neighbor district, so the town over in Reutlingen. And he is asking, are you maybe thinking about doing a project on stereotypes about boys and young men as well? Those and like how they are changing is impacting Western society dramatically as well. Thank you for your time. Both to the two of us. So thank you, Max, for your question. And I'm sure Kate has something in store for us.
Well, I do. I have a book called The Heart of a Boy that is exactly about that. So yeah, that one came out in 2018, 2019, something like that. But yeah, it was basically my big book follow-up, Too Strong is the New Pretty, about basically that, it's the exact same philosophy of celebrating our children for exactly who they are. Boys can be vulnerable, boys can be athletes, boys can be strong, boys can be dancers, basically celebrating, trying to break down those stereotypes. And I feel like we are much farther along in that conversation for our girls than we are with our boys. And so, and it's so funny, after Strong is the New Pretty came out, I was asked, a bunch of times, I'd like to do an ad campaign for this brand, like Strong is the New Pretty. It's so great. I've never gotten an inquiry about the same thing for boys after the fact. I feel like just farther along with our girls. It's a compliment to be, I feel like maybe it's a compliment if you give a girl strong as you pretty, you're like, oh, I think you're great and you're strong. But if you hand a boy a book like Heart of a Boy, you're like, it's okay. But I don't want that. I want to hopefully we keep pushing this envelope and keep pushing this message as much as possible.
Yeah, there's something interesting when you are the hegemon, right? The norm, so to speak,
Right.
where everything bounces off from. In that case, being a boy, a man, and all the qualities that come with that, that sometimes this kind of introspection and this kind of breaking things apart, right? And looking what else is in there goes amiss, right?
Right.
Because the angle is missing, that you can step next to the norm and look at it, right?
Right.
So you sometimes then start from the margins and push the center a little bit to the left and to the right, so they can then look at themselves, or you can take a camera and use a frame and then look at all of the boys. Great. I am fascinated also by A Heart of a Boy, and I've been wondering why we need two projects for that and why we need two books for that. And I'm sure you have a reason. And can you just share that with us? What?
Well, so it's funny. I think because I actually don't think they are two projects. They're two books.
Yes.
But I do think it's the same exact message about celebrating. And it's so funny, because I did not want to do Heart of a Boy. I was reluctant to do that book. I didn't think boys needed it. I was honestly almost offended that I was like, why do we need this? No, I don't have boys. I don't spend a ton of time with boys, and I was like, boys are fine. They don't need me to help with their voices. And then my publisher was like, I really think you should think about this. And I was like, fine, I'll do a couple of test shoots. And then the second I started talking to boys and shooting boys and hearing their stories, I was so upset with myself that I hadn't seen this. And I was like, this is exactly the same thing. I'm the problem. So I was so excited to get into it. And I was so thankful for the boys that were willing to share their stories, that were willing to be vulnerable, that were excited for this, and realized that, basically I was like, it's the same exact message. It's the same exact thing. It's just, split into two books.
Yeah. And there's this interdependency then again, right? And they talk to each other. I completely agree. It is almost 8 here. So, right, we are almost running out of time. So I would give our audience the opportunity to give us one more question, if you have another question. And let me just share one of my favorite stories while I wait for a potential last question. And then I have one more question for you.
Okay.
We've been showing Strongest Than You're Pretty now for 1.5, 2 weeks, and you can still see it until September 16th. And Kate, all of your the photo of your daughter has been on our main bus lines, driving through Tübingen. And one of the most surprising things for me was really that it wasn't surprising that we had a lot of intergenerational groups visiting the exhibition, especially a lot of kids with their grandparents. But what was really surprising to me, and it did something to me, was that I had a lot of older women, so grandmother age, right, up to 70 plus, come to me, and they were so happy about the exhibition and about the way you show these young girls to the world. And they then shared their personal stories, and I'm not going to share them just to be respectful, but I did not expect that to happen. And there was this really beautiful intergenerational moment, but also some kind of I don't know, thing that opened up this kind of desire that seemed to be kind of humming in the back of so many generations, of just seeing other girls and young women like that, like the way you portray them or the way you show them right, to all of us. So thank you.
That's amazing.
Yeah. We have one more question from Max.
Oh,
and it is I'm gonna try to read it. Oh, do you feel empowered women and girls can help boys who have the same problem? I think that goes back to this idea of maybe stereotypes always having two sides, right? Which is
right.
something that your whole project or part of what your project evolves around.
Yeah, no, I think the books and my work in general is trying to break down those stereotypes, trying to like bust the idea that there's gender norms, like, girls, it doesn't, like, it's so frustrating for me, like when I see like this is like I have a picture in one of my speeches. It's like a store that sells toys, and there's building sets and girls building sets, and I'm like, why do we need to separate things out? Like, why? I do feel like hopefully the lines get a little blurred, and that what is acceptable for girls is acceptable for boys. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, that's the thing, is like, find your passion, go with your heart, do the things you love, and who cares what people say or what people think, and do the things that make you happy.
Wow.
Hopefully society doesn't. And I think honestly, that's one of the reasons that like older generations potentially respond to that, because there was nothing like this when I was younger, and there was certainly nothing like that when they were younger. So it's so like, I know my mom was like, I couldn't even play sports. The only sport I could do was cheerlead. And so she's like, I think I would have liked to play sports. And just the opportunity. She's like, I was supposed to be a teacher or a nurse, or, like things that are just like, these are what women do. And I think trying to do as much as I can with my work to break that down, and just like, that's just BS. We don't need that anymore.
You're doing it. My last question for you is, and you've already kind of answered it, but I'm gonna ask you anyways, and you can respond as you like. If there's one thing we can do, in a couple of minutes, starting in a couple of minutes, but also maybe tomorrow or the day after, if there's one thing that you think we should do, what would it be? In the spirit of your project, right?
I would say like the things that keep you up at night, that get you excited, that you can't stop thinking about, or that if you go when you have time, that's what you do. Like, give them more energy. Like, don't shut them off to a corner. Like, just try to, as much as you can, fully invest in those things that you love. Because it's important. It makes you whole. It makes you better. It makes you like your truest self.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you also for sharing so much of you, right, in your conversation. Thank you so much to all of the people behind all of the other screens who've listened to us. Thank you, Max, for your question. If you want to see more of Kate, do come and visit us at the German American Institute, or check out her website if you're looking for a birthday present or something, right? She has great books. Thank you for spending your evening with us, and take care, and we'll see you soon. Bye. Thank you, Kate.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.